Good morning, everybody. We are just waiting for a few more people to join us on the webinar, and then we will kick it off. So just stand by for about a minute. Sorry, I should say afternoon, not morning.
All right, as Nigel said, good afternoon. I just wanted to start the session by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands of which we meet today. Today, I join you from the lands of the Turrbal and the Jagera people, and I would like to pay my respect to their elders past and present. And I'd also like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of all the lands in which we're meeting today. So with that said, we will probably just run over a few just little house rules of the session. As you'll note, we don't have any cameras or microphones on today. That's really just to let Nigel focus on his amazing presentation that he's about to deliver. We will have a lot of content to cover today, so it's probably unlikely that we're going to have a formal Q&A session. But within the Q&A tab of this meeting, we've actually just put a place where we're going to ask you to put any questions you might have that are perhaps not answered in this session, or any queries or even topics for upcoming webinars that you'd like to see. And we will look to come back to those and provide an update to those questions at a later time. So without further ado, I will introduce you to our presenter, Nigel.
Yeah, thanks, Ren, for the introduction, and good afternoon and good morning to people that are coming in from different corners of the world today. We've got some people coming in from Africa and the UK, and then we've got a lot of people from our Southeast Asia, as well as Australian partners as well. So welcome to today's webinar. We're really going to be focusing on some high content driven information and trying to get through as much as we can within the hour today, and hopefully show you some things that you didn't know existed. I always compare this process to an iPhone, or I'm biased, I have an iPhone, but I always compare it to an iPhone in the fact that we've all got these pieces of equipment. We've all paid the same amount of money for them, but we all use them in a very different way. And it is our responsibility and our initiative at Roubler to try and show you some features that you probably haven't used yet or do know about and are using. And it's a bit of a mixed bag. So trying to get people to really see additional value to what they're getting out of the product at the moment. And that's the purpose of these webinars and ongoing customer success that we will be doing with customers and the like. I'm currently coming to you from our Singapore operation. We've got some of our Singaporean customers that have joined us today as well. And I'm actually presenting today from a customer's office. So thanks and welcome. So today we're going to be really talking about some of the more recent feature releases from about July till the end of the year last year, 2024. Really just bringing you up to speed in some of the high value features that we've released and what their application is in the broader sense of industry, whether it be hospitality, food and beverage, whether that be retail, and showing you some of those features and really going into the why. Why do they exist? Why did we develop them? almost every feature that we have going to present today has its source at the customer level. Customers asking for specific features to solve specific problems, and that's really where that is the source of our product development here at Roubler. We're going to deep dive into some of the newest features that are upcoming for 2025, give you an idea of the 2025 roadmap. It's always good to know what's coming, as well as what the benefits to those features will be for customers into the different territories that we support on a global scale. And then how does that improve the overall goal? And the reason why Roubler exists is to improve the way a company performs its workforce management on a day-to-day operational, as well as an HR and payroll point of view as well. We'll be taking a look at some of the screenshots that are coming up in terms of our biggest feature release, which will be a complete UI upgrade to Roubler, making it look a little bit more modern, a little easier to navigate, and a little bit of a performance improvement around some of the items and tasks that your teams perform on a day-to-day basis with Roubler as well. So some of the most recent feature releases that we are going to look at today. We're going to touch on a demand rostering, which is something that we rolled out towards the mid of last year. Demand rostering really talks about the future of being able to link what manpower you need versus the revenue or the amount of sales that you're going to do in a specific day, or forecasting into the future. I'm going to touch on a little bit of the concepts around demand rostering for the hospitality space, as well as for the retail and QSR type of environments that are out there at the moment. So we'll be touching on that, showing you a little bit of a demonstration. And remember, guys, today, although we are going to show you the feature, the setup and the configuration for some of these features is a bit complex. So we ask you to reach out to us if you're interested in these specific features, and we will then take you through that process of setup and have a look at your unique problem that you're trying to solve for and how it can be configured in the system. We'll look at one of the more recent releases in leave costing. A lot of customers have said to us that, you know, it's great to see the cost of a roster. However, leave is a cost component in the business. So just because somebody is on leave doesn't necessarily mean those leave days in the roster should not be costed. And therefore, we've just released a feature that allows you to actually bring that total cost into the roster as well as into the timesheet section, really giving you the opportunity to see a total cost of workforce rather than just the worked shift costs within that roster as well. We'll talk about broadcast messaging, which is our own internal HR controlled WhatsApp group within Roubler. This allows you to communicate within the staff environment. The upside to this is that it's obviously a communication channel built within the software itself. So you're talking to specific people, specific departments within the business unit as well. So we'll talk about that and how it's offering some opportunities for restaurants and hospitality businesses to maybe internally promote specials, tell staff about problems on site, and be able to track or audit if people have read those messages, etc. We'll talk about timesheet filtering. Almost all my engagements are with customers, guys, and therefore I see how our customers utilize or use our product. And some of the filtering opportunities within Roubler allows you to do things a bit better, but quicker, see bigger pieces of information. So we'll be touching a bit on that as well. We'll be looking at the new Clock app that is available on the iStore as well as the Play Store for Android. instead of having to download this information from the software, just be able to just download the application straight from the store and then log in. We've released a benefits tile on the mobile app. I'll explain a little bit more about what that is and how it works, which allows you to essentially pull any sort of benefits page or employee benefits that you're currently using through a third party into the Roubler mobile app. So you have everything in one place at one time. We'll talk about the ability for people to clock in without a roster and for their clock-ins to actually go directly to the primary location of that employee, which is a challenge that some customers have where employees are clocking in outside of their rostered hours and therefore they get put at a different level within the organization. We'll finish off today with geofencing and geotagging. A lot of our customers are utilizing this feature and therefore we won't spend too much time on it, but for those of you who do not know it exists, Roubler has released a geofencing and geotagging technology which allows you to do away with the hardware in the stores, on site, etc., and actually rely on the employees to clock in and clock out on their mobile phones without having to worry if they're actually at home or at the location that they're meant to be at. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then finally, a little bit around the contract management, contract templates or document templates that allows you to create these templates and almost simulate a DocuSign type of process with employees within your organization as well. So with no more to do, I'm going to share my screen and get straight into the software. So let's just minimize some of this information. Right, Renee, maybe you can give me the thumbs up that you can actually see the screen. Good stuff. Cool. Right, so let's dive straight into it. I'm going to, because I've only got a single screen, and I'm going to follow it from my phone. So let's just talk about demand rostering as the first hit of the day. So demand rostering follows the technique that within every business, we are rostering our manpower against a certain amount of demand or a metric that we use around demand. That metric could be ratio driven. And when I say ratio driven, in a hotel, as an example, you might have a situation where you have a banquet. And at the banquet, as an event in the hotel, you might have a banquet of 40 people. You know that that banquet of 40 people requires, for every one customer, I need 3 staff, as an example. You might have an occupancy level in a hotel. So a 40% occupancy requires X amount of front desk people, 3 housekeepers, XYZ in terms of that specific property or that specific hotel. So essentially linking what staff you need to what demand you are having from a customer point of view. Ultimately, what we're all looking for is labor efficiency. So having the most efficient workforce for the demand that's coming in or the predicted demand coming in will allow you to sort of get the most efficient outcome in terms of what staff you require in that business. There's also the other side of demand rostering, which is sales driven. So sales driven, I'm talking about in a QSR restaurant, a quick service restaurant. You know that between 10 and 11 tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow morning, you are expecting X amount of dollars to be created or spent in your restaurant. At a certain level of revenue, you are then, you require a certain amount of staff. The likes of KFC, the likes of Nando's, South Africa, these type of restaurant chains all work on things called hurdle rates, and restaurants do the same. So at a certain level of revenue, I need a certain level of staff. This just allows you to design the business in a way that it is more consistent with a specific system process rather than a human deciding exactly what staff is required. However, keeping the human element in terms of the final preparation of the roster. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to just show you a little demonstration of what this looks like. I've set up a demand roster in the past where I have got a certain amount of revenue forecasts that have been loaded into the Roubler system. And we're going to have a look at this data point. So if I just have a look at a specific day in the past, in the future, doesn't really matter when it is, it just more relies on the data. If we consider that this was in the future, so next week Wednesday, next week Thursday, or whenever it was, I would have a certain level of forecast in the system. Now, how do I get the forecast in the system? That can be generated by your own business intelligence systems that you have, your point of sale systems, etc. And this information can be sent through to Roubler either digitally through an API or through a piece of middleware that we partner with in globally called File AI. And they are partners in bringing in data from different point of sale systems. We integrate with any point of sale system. That is one of our competitive advantages within Roubler and the structure and the ecosystem we've created. If we look at this specific day, and we look through the hours of that day, you'll notice that the sales forecast line is demonstrating a number of figures. So between 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm making $1,000, $2,000, $2,000, $3,000. As you can see, lunchtime goes up or whatever it may be, and then it comes back down to when I close that restaurant at the end of the day. So that's my sales forecast that's come in through a third-party system. And ultimately, that's configured in Roubler to talk to a certain level of staff that are required at those different levels of income. The configured template, which we'll talk about in a second, is then configured against this amount of revenue equals this amount of staff in the different positions and the different locations that I might have within the business. And what you'll notice is that for those of you who have seen this graph, you'll see that there's a little area called templated hours. Templated hours essentially is a demonstration of, because of that amount of revenue between 9 and 10 in the morning, I should use 14.8 man hours in that hour. So the system is almost predicting that in accordance with your sales and the way we've configured the staff versus revenue, these are the man hours I should use for this specific day to come in line with my budget or with my benchmark around my labor efficiency number, right? As a manager, I would go into the system and not necessarily see all this information because it would already be there and preset in the system itself. As a manager, I would go and I would apply my demand template, and you would have seen this this area in the system already. And if I had a demand template, I would go and apply it to that specific day, the 11th of the 11th. What you will then notice is that the system then applies this demand template in accordance with when we need the staff based on when the revenue is forecasted to come in. So it's telling me that I need X amount of staff, and these are all the shifts that are related to fulfilling that demand at the right time of the day. So in other words, this individual who's a shift manager needs to come in at about 1:45. So the system has a whole lot of settings which allows you to sort of govern that a person needs to come in 15 minutes before the shift starts because he needs to put on his uniform and those type of things. So before I receive the revenue, I actually need the person in position for those before the revenue starts. So what you'll notice here, I've got a whole bunch of sort of positions. If I look at all the positions that I've got and when they need to be worked, I then very simply go and use my smart rostering tool to go and allocate those employees to those shifts. But before I do that, what I want to show you is that the rostered hours that have dropped into the system from that demand roster align perfectly with what we should be using from a rostering point of view. Remember that templated hours. So the system has automatically rostered the right amount of hours for the day or for the hour, if you want to call it that. So in this case, I would use the smart roster. The smart roster would allocate the right people to those right shifts, and that now I've got the right hours against the right revenue as well. And I can go and cost that roster out and see what my costing analysis is, and at the same time, automatically cost out my labor efficiency number at the same time. So just to show you what that looks like, as a net result, the system would effectively give me that information in front of me. So what this ultimately allows us to do is then publish the roster, and from a business management point of view, go and have a look at what does that day look like from a labor efficiency point of view. And if I go and apply that, what I'll notice is that my templated hours, what I should have used is 269. What I actually rostered was slightly lower than that because I don't have breaks in there, etc. It means that I predicted to run the business at 37% labor efficiency, but actually came in at 10% labor efficiency. One, because obviously my sales was a bit higher, but ultimately I kept in line with what I was meant to roster from a demand rostering point of view. So really quite sophisticated in the back end, but quite easy to use from a management point of view on an ongoing basis. So that talks about the demand rostering. Please reach out to us to get into some detail around this because it is really a great feature. We've got two very large customers in the South African market using this feature really successfully to predict labor and also to reduce the intensity required to think about building rosters, etc. The other feature that we can touch on, the leave costing. So there is a configuration switch in the company settings under features that you can go and switch on, which now allows you to cost out things like leave. So instead of leave not costing in the roster, you can now actually get a full version and a full cost estimate, which includes all the leave components in Roubler as well. This feeds through to our business intelligence screen as well. So this business intelligence screen would then also include all the costings of the leave as well. So you'll see that the dashboard changes to indicate that this now includes leave in the cost element as well. So a more accurate efficiency number because now you are including things like leave in the system. To navigate to where that is in the system, really simple: settings, company settings, features, and then literally just switching it on over here as well. You can switch it on and then switch it off if you want to. If you want to play with the feature, and it will just roll it back to what it was prior to the so it's an opt-in or opt-out sort of feature at that. Broadcasting message. If you haven't seen it before, broadcasting message is available top right-hand side. Again, under management settings, company settings, switching this feature on will allow you to create and send messages either from the web interface and or from the mobile interface. To give you some idea of what that looks like from a mobile point of view, I'm just going to share my my Roubler application on the screen in front of us today. Renee, would you just tell me if you see that? Teams has been giving us some challenges around what we can share and what we can't share. Just give me a second.
No worries, not quite yet, but...
Not quite yet. Okay, give me a second. Again, software improvements from Microsoft as well. We know all about it. Okay, can you see that, Renee?
Not yet.
Not yet. I'm going to just stop the share and reshare. Now, right, you should see my phone in front of you now.
There we go.
Perfect. Right. So the Roubler application effectively will, once this feature is switched on and the correct permissions are given, employees will see the little messaging screen at the bottom of the application that will pop up. Now you can control who can send messages, you can control who can reply to messages as well. You wouldn't want too many back and forths if it's a specific type of message that you want to create. But ultimately, as a manager or a person who has permissions to send messages, they'll be able to send messages to their reporting line or their locations that they have access to. In this case, this person that can send this message has access at the top tier of the system. And I'm sure you all know what I mean by that, and therefore can see everybody underneath it, right? So I could send this message to a whole lot of people in specific locations that are employees of those specific locations. I could type a webinar day, could type a message, could add a photo, I could attach a document. I could also pin that message to the top of their board and keep that there for 1, 2, 3 days if it's an urgent message. And I can also flag it as an important message as well. By doing this, I can also require a read confirmation and allow people to comment back or not. And in this case, send that message to employees and get responses from those employees. Once the employee gets the message, they can obviously, if they can comment, they can make comments on the message as well as put in emojis and those type of things. As the messenger, I can see who's read that message. I can nudge them. So when I nudge them, they get push notifications on the mobile application to say that they need to read this message quite urgently or whatever it may be. So you can also search different types of messages with different types of content, as well as see the items of action, the items that were pinned at the top of the channel. So really drawing people's attention to specific features and functionalities on the system as well. So that sort of just gives you an idea of the messaging facility. This can be controlled through the web interface as well. So HR people, payroll, people that use the web interface. I just don't have the plus button here because I'm not a person with the permission in this specific system, but I would see exactly what we just saw on the mobile application where I would add a message. I could see the important posts, actionable posts, and I could create posts out of the messaging service. So really a great feature. We're seeing this specifically in sort of the F&B space where weekly specials for customers, staff are reminded of what specific products to push, etc. through the application. Because they're looking at their roster anyway, they would obviously utilize that to see that side of things. Right, moving on, we're going to talk about timesheet filtering. The filtering, I really do encourage people to go and have a look at the filtering options that Roubler has. So an example, I'm in the timesheet section at the moment. We have added a whole bunch of additional feature or filtering options in the timesheet area where you can go and add different items into your view. And this really will help you to, manage the data better, as well as see specific information that you're trying to observe or try to control, etc. So by just adding in a few more columns into my view, I can actually see without having to click down into the roster or into the timesheet itself and then only seeing the information. I can actually see it in the top line of information, which allows me to then filter it, tell me the most expensive timesheet for the day or for the week or for whatever it may be, show me where the biggest cost variance is, so I can go and question my GM or my manager about this information, and display all the items that have notes on them as an example. I can also, recently I sat with a customer that actually hadn't seen this filtering option as well, where they wanted to filter the timesheets over a specific period by employment type. So show me all the part-timers in the view. So then the timesheets obviously filter accordingly. Or show me only the timesheets that have problems associated with them. Because as you know, Roubler has an alerts section, which allows you to set up different alerts to alert you of misgivings in the timesheets. So I've just put all the alerts on, and I only want to see the timesheets with those alerts. So here it makes the business be managed on exception, not on what's going right. Because the timesheets that don't have any alerts are essentially the timesheets that match the roster. So why do we need to approve something or interrogate it if it was planned and it happened in exactly the same way? So manage the business by exception. Instead of having 40 timesheets, I now have 4 to look through and to go and fix and do what I need to do. So utilize the filtering options that we've provided that give you good sight on some of the information in a much more controlled environment. Also, anything that you have filtered on here and you export will come as a CSV, and that data point will be in that CSV. So if you're looking at bringing in the cost to the CSV, then you can export that, and anything that you're looking at essentially will export accordingly. So use the filtering. There's additional filtering coming in our 2025 roadmap, and we'll be showing you some of that as well as we go. I'm going to share my phone again, just to show you the new mobile application for clocking, which is a long time coming. So we're really thankful that our dev team got it going. Sorry, I just want to get the sharing going again. Right. Just move this out the way. Right, you should see my phone again. Ren, is that correct?
Certainly can.
Good, right. So you can see it's a live demo, guys. The mobile app, so the clocking application that we're talking about. We have released a application into the Play Store and the iStore to really make it much easier for customers to get clocking devices up and running really quickly. So you'll see there's this clocking app at the top here. This has everything that the current clock app has, but a little bit more stability. It also has a few more of the features that I'm going to show you as I clock in for a specific individual now. If I clock in for a employee by the name of Kerry, as an example, 5026, does the same thing that you're used to, just looks a bit neater, looks a bit newer. It allows you to clock in for a location, which is part of our location-based clocking, if you've got that switched on. But more importantly, it allows you to add the clocking questions that Roubler created as well last year as features. So do you have a pay query? Yes or no? Do you want to talk to your manager? Yes or no? And the quite nice thing about this is that it will trigger a workflow to the manager of Kerry and a notification that Kerry wants to see him or has a pay query or whatever you want to come up with. There's options to select questions, yes or no questions, or text, which I'll demonstrate in the next flow. So Kerry's clocked in for the day. She wants to clock out for the same day. Again, takes a photo. You are aware we've got facial verification features on top of that. And here I can put in some more text. I can put text in of how many vacant rooms were completed and how many occupied rooms were completed, as an example, right? I think I've got some of my customers on from IHG in Singapore. You guys will recognize that one. Anyway, so I put in some information and now I want to go and interrogate that information as well, or the responses that came from it. It just allows a good feedback loop for employees, as well as starting to track some of the culture. Have I had a good shift, bad shift, or I've had an okay shift? Imagine what you could do about comparing different units of your business in terms of the staff satisfaction at the shift level. So really good. It's the start of our mental health type of developments that we've done on that side of things. I'm going to stop sharing my phone. That mobile application, the setup of it, a little different to the way you currently download a clocking app and put it into the field. Please touch base with us. It is all highlighted in our help section where you can go and find how to register the new Roubler clock device, and it guides you through that process quite simply as well. Just to show you what came out of that, and to do this, I'm just going to go back to a previous account just to show you what that looks like in terms of the output of that clock. For this case, I'm going to navigate to, I was on an Australian account, now I'm moving into a South African account just so we have non-biased. Right, so if I go to Kerry, we'll notice Kerry's timesheet came in for the 13th, which is today. We've got obviously the pictures that you guys are used to. It's a fixed device clock because it's on the wall or it's on a tablet or whatever it may be. You can actually see those responses from the questions that we asked her when she clocked in. And if I was the manager of Kerry, I would have received a message to say, if she had answered yes to a pay query, I would have got the message to go and resolve that. Just show you where that is in the reporting area, under TNA, under clock questions follow-up. I would have a whole bunch of follow-ups that I needed to do from the people that are asking me to do certain things. So you can create those workflows in quite a nice, neat, and organized space as well. It's great for auditing and audit compliance as well as part of that process. Let's talk about geofencing while we're here. I'm skipping ahead a bit. So geofencing, geotagging I'm going to just show you an example. Marion is another employee in this demo account. Marion clocks in and clocks out on her mobile phone. As you all know, we have that option available. Marion looks like this, looks like Nigel, dressed in the same way I did this clock yesterday. But what you'll notice is that I'm 9,621 kilometers away from where I was meant to clock at a location in Cape Town, funny enough, in South Africa. I was meant to clock in one of our customers. I think you are online as well today, which is Lanzerac Wine Estate in Stellenbosch for our Australian people, wine country, similar. That's where I was meant to clock. I was meant to clock within the radius of this geo fence. So all of that you can actually set up and configure in each of your locations. You can make that geo fence larger, you can make it smaller, 10 meters, 20 meters, 100 meters. And if I clocked in that location, then ultimately the clock would have been accepted and the timesheet wouldn't have thrown the alert. But I actually clocked in Singapore on that day. So that gives you an idea of the geofencing and geotagging. Really simple to set up. If you just go to your settings, you go to your locations, and you go and click on a location, you can ultimately go and create a geofence or geotag anywhere in the world. So I could go and say Marina, it uses Google Maps. It uses Google Maps to position something. And then it will tag that in the location. That's obviously where it is. And then you can say within 100 meters of that clock, and it will make that geofence larger in that process. So really simple, really easy. Obviously, you want to enable geofencing for the location. So that's the first step. The last step is to go to settings and alerts and switch on your alert for geofencing and geotagging. So you can either block the timesheet, you can either make it dismissible. So in other words, you'll accept the timesheet if the manager can approve it, but he also needs to write some notes in there. So the person might have been outside of the fence by 10 meters, and therefore it's going to throw an alert to the timesheet and say that timesheet is outside the geofencing. And in that case, you might want the manager just to put in a note to say, yes, John was at work. He just clocked in, just outside the location or whatever it may be. The other option is to block the timesheet completely, and that will stop the approval of the timesheet in the system as well. So just to demonstrate that process, effectively, if I try to approve that timesheet, you'll notice within the timesheet, it's thrown out and exceeds geofencing. If I try to approve this timesheet on that specific day, it would stop me from doing that and throw an alert to the timesheet as well. So yeah, gives you a good idea of that process. So if I try to approve, you'll notice it's blocked by an alert. So really configurable, controllable from that aspect point of view as well. We will talk about the benefits screen, just something that as customers, not many people use this, but it is there and we just want people to know about it at the same time. So I'm just going to share my screen again. Sorry, just stop sharing and then reshare. Share again so you can see my mobile. Right, Renee, just confirm again. You can see my cell phone or my mobile.
I can indeed.
Cool. So in the Roubler mobile application, we've got this other tile right at the bottom. It's called benefits. I don't know if you can see that, but A lot of people don't know it exists, and it's a feature that you can actually switch on. And if I, as an employee, clicked on the benefits tile, this can shoot out to any URL that you have as a third-party benefits provider. Flare is a good example of that in Australia. Any sort of earned wage system that you guys are using, any employee benefits, medical aid, login for Discovery Health in South Africa, as an example, or any benefits type of page that you want to utilize. So it's really quite configurable to whatever you use. It just needs a URL, and it can be set up in the settings side of Roubler as well, just under management settings, company settings, and under your integration URLs over here. So where I put the employee benefits URL, I could put any login page for any of my benefits providers here, and it would simply shoot it out to that login page. Why would you use this? To keep everything in one place, instead of having multiple apps that people need to go and log into, anything to do with their employment life cycle, anything to do with their workforce management, put it in a single application. And that's the idea of the benefits page in Roubler as well. Finally, getting on to contract management. So Roubler's got a full contract or document management section. At the moment, this part of the solution is in our first phase of the solution, whereby effectively you can create contracts of employment, warning letters, anything associated with any template that you have in the business that is repeatable and or needs to be sent to employees for signature. Really simple, setting up a document called a uniform sign off document. I know a lot of my customers on the call today issue uniforms to employees, and they want them to acknowledge that they've taken that uniform, right? Creating a document. I'm not going to spend too much time actually creating it, but imagine you can take your existing document that you use in a manual space, you can copy and paste it into this area here. You can then also use some of our predetermined filters. So where you can merge tags like company name, and then you might want to say the full name of the employee, then you might want to put in the position. And why would you do all of this? It's a template. So ultimately, when you send this to Nigel, it's going to pull on all of Nigel's information in his employee master file and populate that information in your document. So when it arrives at Nigel for signature, it's all related to him, right? And it could be his pay rate, it could be his remuneration type, it could be his reporting to structure, etc. So all of these merge tags assist you to customize the document for a specific employee when you send that document out. To give you some idea, if I had to send this document out as this is an employment contract as an example, I have the ability to send it to a group of people at a location. I have the opportunity to send it to a specific person or a number of specific people. Then I have the opportunity to workflow the sign off of this document to, first of all, the head of HR needs to sign this, then the head of operations needs to sign it, then the two recipients of the document need to sign it. So therefore, gaining 3 to 4 signatures on a complete document at the end of the process. Once I send this document out, I will see it in my document section where I'll see the progress of that document in terms of where it's been sent to. So this document has started by Nigel. It's now on its way to Valerie. Once Valerie signs it, it will be sent to Hannes and then ongoing till the end until the document is physically signed off at the end. This allows you to keep all the documents in one place. So not in file 13 or in a cabinet. If I go to Marion's profile in Roubler, which is similar to everyone globally, you'll notice that those documents that she's either completed or signed or in progress are actually sitting here. And if I had to go and look at that document, I'll see the history of the document as well as an e-signature at the end of the document as well. So really giving you the opportunity to create documents as well as contracts of employment and those type of things as well. Right, that brings us to the end of the existing features that were released since last year, and I'm sure you agree with me, quite a few within about 4 to 5 months. Can't really take into account December. So giving you a good view at that. So we've covered all the headline items in this. Let's talk about what's coming up. Let's talk about 2025. It's going to be a big year from us from a development point of view and a general Roubler enhancement point of view. First of all, what's coming now? So we talk about now, next, and later. And what that means for you as a customer is that it's quarters. So we're talking about now within the next quarter, then after that in the following quarter, and then later in the year towards the end of the year. As with any development business, we never give specific dates rather than quarters because a lot can change in the development roadmap in terms of timing, etc. And that's just a standard across the industry type of thing. So what's coming up now is a new UI. We've been working on the background with this for a number of months. Amy from our product team, which some of you have met, as well as working with some of our customers around understanding what they're looking for in terms of a new look and feel. We'll be releasing this out into the market shortly. It will be on an opt-in or opt-out basis. So we're not going to force everyone to use a brand new piece of kit. We're going to have very similar to the way Microsoft has done this. Do you want to look at the new UI or do you want to use the old one? Just for a period of time until people are used to the new touch and feel. Ultimately, that's human behavior and that's how it works. This is coming out shortly. We're going to be showing you a few visuals of this in the next couple of minutes. And ultimately, where it's coming from is to create consistency in the platform. What you would have noticed, and if I'm speaking to some operational people in the room today, the roster, for example, you can't view the roster in a custom date range, but you can view the timesheets in a custom date range. Now, this for the customers in the room today that run a payroll from the 18th to the 19th of each month is a challenge because, yes, you can get your timesheets out for that period, but you can't look at the roster or the corresponding roster for that same period. So we're trying to bring consistency in the different areas of the system into Roubler through this new UI build. And that's one of the key advantages that we are seeing as we go into this new release. Some of the new roster capabilities in phase 1 will be multi-group drop and drag, which involves the ability to select a group of shifts and drag them into and drop and drag them into a new week or a new month or a new period, creating mixed start times and end times, because it's okay to copy a roster, but to copy a roster that you create a repeat shift on every shift for the same start time is not necessarily the best way to do it. You have mixed start times. So some really exciting stuff that's going to be creating a lot of efficiencies in the rostering piece in the initial release of the development, enhanced break management, and we'll be giving you a little bit more content to this as time goes by, but enhanced break management, being able to actually view the break in the roster instead of just oh, that was a silly thing. I didn't put my battery on. instead of having the breaks within the shift, you can actually visually see those rosters. Searching roster, being able to search for a name in a roster. I'm sure every one of you have experienced that, where I'm just looking for Nigel in the roster, but can't actually search that name. So creating the search in the roster, or a specific field, a specific location. Shift pinning, being able to put a shift or a location above another location. So not necessarily following an alphabetical or a numerical order, but actually being able to see it the way you want to see it. And then ultimately being able to save those views in phase 2, because what you've probably noticed when you log into Roubler, sometimes your views reset, and therefore you have to go and switch on all the things that you would like to see again. So one of the items is obviously save views. So what you are used to looking at is always on. Interactive day views, enhanced copy and paste tools are looking for phase 1. Phase 2, we're looking for some being able to create leave straight out of a roster instead of moving to another side of the system. Really looking at our enhanced printing functionality. A big item that's come from a lot of customers is they want to print the roster in different ways and have different views on that roster. So we have taken that to heart, and we are creating some enhanced printing facilities as well. Smart recommendations, sort of the start of the Roubler AI journey. All software is on this. This will be the start of our journey as well in that place. And one big one that I'm completely fascinated with and really looking forward to is the shift cost breakdown. So we all know that there's a number at the top of the shift, always is. So at the top of the roster, there's always a sorry, I just want to go back a bit here. At the top of the roster, there's a pin at the top with the total cost for that week or that month or that day. However, it doesn't break down the cost. So you can't really see where can I go and control overtime. So what we're doing is we're going to be able to tell you that the roster is $160,000 for the week, but 20,000 is overtime. And if you click on that overtime bucket, it'll point you to the shifts that have been created that have rostered overtime in them, as an example. This will really allow you then to go and fix those shifts, or accept them or not, or change it with somebody that's not in an overtime situation, etc. So really giving you control over the efficiency computation of the system. Then much later, we've got some user impersonation, which allows you to troubleshoot, making use of the system, troubleshooting issues a bit easier. Our effective date concepts coming out, e.g., Nigel's getting a salary increase next week, not today. So in Roubler, you know that has to be updated today in order to be effected today. However, we are introducing effective date across multiple tabs in the business, which allow you to, Nigel's position is changing next week or next month, and this is the date, the effective date change. So this really allows proactive changes in the system rather than on the day or as it needs to happen. And then finally, Joel, one of our senior devs in Roubler, has finally gotten his way around departments and teams creation, which is a change in the hierarchy of the system, being able to create teams rather than locations. Everybody in the room knows that our hierarchy works on location. So if I'm an employee at a location and there is someone with a permission level higher than me in that location, ultimately I get that person gets notifications for me in that location. We are changing the view, and we are changing the way the hierarchy would work to enable for teams to be created. So the marketing team might be sitting across multiple locations, but they are in effect their own team, and therefore they need their own roster, and they need their own timesheets, and they need their own hierarchies according to that. So just some of the views. This is not any way done, right? So but these are some of the views from the software. Some key items you'll notice is that it looks a bit cleaner. Looks a bit more new age. We've got.
Nige, can I just jump in there? We're still on your Roubler app.
Oh, are you?
So yeah.
Oh, damn it. Okay. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I thought you were on the presentation. Hold on. Teams. All right. Can you see the new UI?
There you go. Perfect.
Okay,
That's it.
got it. Cool. Well, I hope you didn't miss anything on the previous discussion, guys. But anyway, yeah, so the new UI gives you a little bit of a view of what it looks like. Instead of everything being at the top, we freed up some, we call it, and I don't know if Amy's on the call, we call it real estate on the system, but we're freeing up some of the real estate. So we're allowing for more pertinent information to come into the future, but everything's on the left-hand side. So down the left-hand side will be all the different components that you're used to at the top of the side. It also makes it more mobile friendly for things like iPads and those type of things instead of everything being at the top. So just some views on that. Then just some views on the managed leave. So very similar to what you're used to as phase one approaches, but so things in the similar places, not too much change, but just ultimately a new look in terms of the system as well. So that's a settings screen. More importantly, and I want to get to before we end off today, because we've just gone over time, is the roster. So this would be essentially a little bit more on the rostering and the ability to group things by name, by team, by group, by location. List by employee, so a multi-filter view. There's that date range that we spoke about. So are we looking at for the day, the month, the week, or a specific set of dates? Also, everything that you're currently used to. So there will be no features that will leave the system, just be put in different places for the purposes of granularity as well. So gives you a little bit of a high level view at what's coming and sort of the feel and the look. One of the big things I'm looking forward to is the performance that this will give us. So the code base is changing in the back, which ultimately means that like when we drop and drag a shift, at the moment, it's sort of like copy, paste, and then it's about it's a split second. 10 years ago, we would have been happy with that. But we live in a world where now is now. So what I'm looking forward to in this new UI is the performance that's going to come with it, just in terms of the ability to copy, paste, and it literally does it as you do it. And that's just more of a technical explanation, but really allowing people to get the speed or performance side really wrapped up quite nicely. So more of this to come. As we go into our features in focus sessions, which myself and Ren will be in touch with you around in the coming months, as well as our next webinar. Hopefully we'll be able to give you some real life view and footage of this as we get into our next webinar, but do watch out for our features in focus. I'm also very aware that some of our customers are not getting our newsletters and our feature release notes. And this could have been the fact that you opted out of a previous email or something that's coming from our system. So we really want to have a look at that and make sure that the communication on new features, new functionalities, and how to use these are not only regarded in the webinar. But for now, that's me, Nigel, signing off. Ren, did you want to just say a quick close to everybody? If there are any questions, we'll pick them up as we go through the Q&A stuff with everybody. But I'm very aware people's time is precious. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Nige. It was really, really great to have your expertise in explaining all of those recent updates and features. As I said at the start of the session, there is a Q&A tab because we knew that we had a lot to cover. So If there are any questions you want to add, please do add them there, and we'll look to reach out and make sure that everyone who has signed up for the newsletter or who wants it and perhaps has missed the ability to sign up, we'll make sure that we circle back so that you get that. We'll be sharing the recording as well for those that couldn't make it or your colleagues that weren't able to attend. So we'll make sure that that's a shareable link. Thank you very much for joining, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar later in the year. Thanks.